Hey guys, it's the Korean Vegan again, taking over the Feed Snapchat to show you how to make my favorite bean burgers. Yay! Of course, you can find me on Instagram at the.korean.vegan. You can also find me on Facebook at the Korean Vegan, where I post a lot of my recipes. And finally, you can also find me at thekoreanvegan.com, which is where I post the vast majority of my recipes, including for this burger. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to cut open a can of beans, but we're only going to cut it about a quarter of the way around. And the reason for that is we want to harvest the aquafaba, or the bean juice, and we shall see why. Alright, so now that I have finished harvesting the aquafaba, I have lined a baking sheet with some foil and I've sprayed it down with a little bit of oil. On top of this, I'm just going to pour out my black beans, a full can. And I'm just going to spread it around with the back of a spoon so it's really one layer of beans. And now I am going to stick these in the oven to roast for about 10 to 15 minutes at 375 degrees. So I'd also like to add some roasted golden beet chips. So what I've done is I've sliced them up extremely thin. And to this I'm just going to add maybe, half a tablespoon of olive oil. I'm going to generously season this with some salt and pepper. I'm going to just make sure that these get coated with the oil. And then, like with the black beans, I'm just going to spread them out one layer on a baking sheet lined with foil. Sliced beets are now in the oven at the same temperature as the beans cooking together. I'm now going to saute about a quarter of an onion. To the onions, I'm going to add just a little bit of sliced serrano chilies. Alright, so now that the onions are nice and soft and starting to brown, I'm going to actually add these to a medium-sized bowl. Next, I'm going to take about a third of a cup of roasted cashews and put them in the food processor. And I am going to chop these. So this is the consistency you're going for. You want something like small little pebbles. Alright, add that to the bowl. So the roasted black beans are done. As you can see, they've opened up in many cases and they've dried out. I actually picked up this technique of roasting the black beans in advance by Chef Kenji over at Serious Eats. So if you just Google Chef Kenji or Kenji and Serious Eats, you'll find so many great articles about cooking. He's not vegan per se, but he does experiment a lot with vegetarian and vegan recipes, and whatever he doesn't veganize, I veganize. Alright, so here are the beautiful black beans that we roasted, and we're going to put this into the food processor. And the key here is that we don't want a mushy burger, so we don't want to mash the black beans, right? So we're just going to chop them. I hit that chop button maybe 5 or 6 times. This is the consistency you're going for, not mush, and we're now going to add this to the bowl. We're also going to add to the bowl a third of a cup of short grain brown rice cooked. Comes the fun part. We get to flavor this bean burger with whatever the F we want. Before, I added some gochujang, which is a Korean chili paste, in order to flavor my bean burger. I'm going to do that here. So this is the gochujang I use, and the reason I use it is because it says vegan on the label. Sometimes with Korean stuff, you got to be a little careful. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon, just going to eyeball it. Looks good. And what that gochujang does is it acts as like the sticky substance that's going to kind of bind a lot of this together. So what the heck is this? This is actually a water bottle that I filled with my mother's recipe of Korean barbecue marinade. So before I went plant-based and I decided to cut out all meat, one of my favorite foods of all time was Korean kalbi, naturally. Lucky for me, my mother's recipe is totally vegan. I demonstrate it all the time. It's effing delicious. If you want the recipe, you can head over to my Snapchat. Like I said, I demonstrate it all the time, but I'm going to add about a tablespoon of that. So remember that black bean juice we harvested at the very beginning? we are going to add about a tablespoon of that as well. And finally, I'm also going to add about half a tablespoon of potato starch. You can also add flour, but starch is better. And we're just going to start mixing this all together. And it's already getting sticky in here. So this is what it looks like. You can actually stick this in the fridge overnight if you want it to cool completely, or you could work with it right now because it's pretty chilled. So since I want to make some pretty sizable patties and it's just me tonight, I'm actually going to divide this into two. So I divided the bowl into two. And I'm just, forming a ball, and then I'm going to flatten it out a little bit. Go. And then I am going to drop it into a plate or a bowl of that potato starch just to coat it. You don't want it to be too thick, so you're just going to tap off the excess here. And then you're going to drop it into the aquafaba. So drop it into the aquafaba really quick, both sides, and then drop it into the breadcrumbs. And here you go, you have one perfect burger ready to be grilled, baked, roasted, or fried. So speaking of fried, that's the way I prefer to make my burgers. So I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of grapeseed oil. Grapeseed oil happens to be a fantastic oil for frying because it's neutral and it withstands very, very high temperatures. So the oil has gotten nice and hot. I'm just going to add our burger. And that is the sound you love to hear. I'm going to flip this over. And look at that. So gorgeous. So because this is a rather thick burger, I'm actually putting it on its side so I can catch the edges as well. And look at that. That is a perfectly and beautifully cooked black bean burger, if I ever saw one. But of course, the proper burger would be nothing without the fixins. So what have we got here? We've got some kale and some kimchi. And this is my homemade vegan mayonnaise. Yup. Vegan mayo, and it tastes like the real thing. I actually made this a couple hours ago. It's incredible, super easy. Head over to my Snapchat where I demonstrate the whole thing. It's so good. So I'm just gonna add, I don't know, a tablespoon of mayo. And this is kimchi juice that I harvested earlier. As you can tell, I like to harvest things from cans and pickles. I'm gonna add that here. Ooh, looks so pretty. And I'm just gonna stir everything together to make like a kimchi kale slaw. And then of course we need the buns. Pretzel buns to be specific. I made these a few hours ago as well. So my boyfriend is a health nut and he really doesn't like foods wherein he cannot understand all of its ingredients. We got these absolutely delicious pretzel rolls from Whole Foods, but like all the ingredients were like 7-syllable chemicals. So I decided to try making my own, and that's what we did here. So I'll use this one for our burger today. I honestly think pulling out the bun is like half the fun. How delicious does that look? So here's the bun, sliced in half. I'm just gonna take our burger and put it on top. Look, I can even handle it with my hands. It's amazing. So if you're not accustomed to eating lots of black bean burgers, you may not be familiar with the anguish of having it fall apart before you're very... So the fact that I can like hold it and touch it and carry it without it crumbling into my pants is pretty major. So a little bit more dressing. I'm gonna add a tablespoon of mayo, and to that I'm gonna add just a touch of that carby sauce again. And just like that, you've got a creamy, delicious carby dressing to add to your black bean burger. Next, I'm just going to take a little bit of that slaw, and yes, I'm going to use my hands because that is the easiest way to do this, and just place it gently on top. And finally, don't forget, we made these roasted golden beet chips to add to the top that I nearly burned. So we're just going to place them very gently on top here. Right. And finally, just one more flavor and one more color. I'm going to add some spicy gochujang ketchup over the top. And I have here some baked fries that I was roasting in the oven when nobody was looking. Because I quite frankly find the idea of having a burger without potatoes of some kind to be sort of ghastly. And this is some old kimchi that I actually sauteed with sesame oil and agave. Of course, you can also add this to your burger, but I am actually going to add this to my fries to make kimchi fries. I'm going to add a few of those serrano chilies I sliced up earlier to my kimchi fries. And then I'm going to add some toasted sesame seeds. There you go. And there is your 4th of July in a cast iron pan. You got your bean burger, your kimchi fries, and your ketchup. And here is a close-up of that same burger. Wow, that mayo actually looks like cheese. So hopefully you guys are already on your way to an epic 4th of July weekend, and thank you so much for joining me while I made you this burger. Again, you can find me here on Snapchat at The Korean Vegan. You can also find me on Instagram at the.korean.vegan. And for the recipe for this bean burger, you can go to my website, thekoreanvegan.com. A bunch of other fun recipes on there. Thanks again, and thank you to the Feed for hosting this and allowing me to take over their Snapchat so that I could share this with you. And finally, if you guys are interested in taking over their Snapchat and sharing your recipes, just hit them up with a message. They are so awesome. Yep, those are amazing.